Hey everyone, this is Chris here with Daily Motor, and today we've got the infotainment tour and demo on the 2023 Lexus RX and its brand new 14-inch touchscreen infotainment system. Before we get started, let's hop out and take a look at it. Whew, excuse the wind, it is quite cold and breezy today, but here it is, the 2023 Lexus RX, a totally new generation of car for the 23 model year. This one's finished in, the only way I can describe it is rose gold. I don't know the actual color code for it, but it's taking me back to the days of the iPhone 5 and such other things, but I don't think it looks too bad here on the RX. In fact, I think it looks pretty good. If you want to learn more about the Lexus RX 500, make sure to check the link in the description. That'll give you access to all of our other videos on this car. But to get out of the cold, let's hop inside, take a look at the tech in this new RX. Before we go over to the 14-inch infotainment system, let's take a look at the cluster as well as some of these steering wheel buttons, because they are certainly different than what we've been used to in Lexuses of years past. You have these two buttons right here that are soft touch. So as you can see here up on the heads-up display, I hope you guys can see that. As I run my finger around here, you have different choices for what you want to do. This bottom button switches you back and forth for what you actually want to change. And to get to the display menu, you click this once, and then that allows you to use these arrows to get through your different displays here on the cluster. You can see we have a compass, a boost gauge here on this 500H, a G meter, which is kind of funny, gear position, nothing, adaptive cruise mode for your driver aids there. You can see your average fuel economy, your trip computer, average speed, and your EV driving ratio. So, and then if you're listening to music, that would be right there in that menu. On this other side here, we can skip tracks, pick up a call, use our voice command, or click this button to get through your other set of buttons. You can turn audio on and off, or you can switch your mode or source there with this top one. So I don't know how I really feel about this. I mean, it's kind of neat. I think that you would get used to it if you were actually an owner of this Lexus RX, but just being someone that's spending a week with it, I don't know that I totally love the way that this works. But there you go. That is how it works. That's how you control your cluster as well as your, whatever else you're controlling, cruise control and many of other things. But this is what we're here to talk about today, this brand new 14-inch infotainment system. This is kind of a big deal for Lexus because in years past, their infotainment systems haven't been the best. They've had little touch pads or little mouse pads that are kind of irritating. Everything's been buried in the system, and everything is still in the infotainment system, but it's a little bit more accessible now, because back in the day, if you wanted to turn on your heated seats or whatever, especially in the LC500, you basically had to have a passenger to do it for you to make sure that you didn't crash. But luckily on this new infotainment system, there are a number of things that stay here permanently that are easily accessible. So for instance, and we'll start out talking about these permanent things here. You can see that we do have access to where we want our vents to point. You can hear that little noise there that gives you confirmation that you are doing something. We've got heated and cooled seats that both have auto functions. Those are both right here on the infotainment. Heated steering wheel also has an automatic function or 2 levels to set manually. You press up here and that brings your climate control menu up completely. You can see you have a couple of different options here. You've got a de-icer in eco mode and a couple of other things up there at the top. We also have this menu right here next to our climate menu that just brings up a number of shortcuts. You can see your frequently used things are over here. So I've been messing with my drive modes lately as well as some of my driver assists. We just did a highway fuel economy test and I was kind of messing with these things. Driving in eco mode, turning on and off lane departure, things like that. That'll time out after a couple of seconds as well. Frequently used things pop up here closest to the driver, so you can use your most frequently used things more frequently. Comfort and convenience here. You'll see some things are repeated as I scroll through here. Heads-up display settings, drive modes again right here. Vehicle accessories and driver assist, and more driver assist continued here on to the last page. So really all of your things pop up here in this quick access menu, frequently used here on the left. So again, a pretty easy way to access things if you don't want to go into these little side tabs over here on the left. I've accidentally clicked CarPlay there. You can switch what climate you're controlling. You can control rear climate from up here as well. We've got it on front right now. Your sync button for both passenger and driver climate controls is there, and the passenger, of course, has their heated and cooled seat functions over there on their side. Automatic climate control is used right here with this auto button, and when you click that, it will turn on auto everything. So you've got your auto seat, your auto steering wheel, as well as your auto climate. We're going to go ahead and turn this down so you guys don't have to listen to a vent. Turn everything off. You kind of make a beat with that. Anyways, there's your vent controls right there, as you can see. Recirc and AC controls right there as well. We've got a few physical knobs here on this. One on either side here for your climate control. If you've got these set on sync, this will control them both, obviously, but if the passenger wants to switch theirs, they are able to do that. It'll also default the seat to auto. So you can see I turned it down slightly there, but if you put it back on sync, turn all that off, back to normal there. And we also have a volume knob right here in the middle. I like that as of recently, manufacturers have been listening to us journalists, YouTubers, whatever you want to call us, and they've been putting in volume knobs on cars. That is quite convenient. We do have controls over here on the steering wheel as well to control volume, and they are fixed in place. So 2 fixed in place ways to control your volume. That is quite refreshing. I do like to see that. Otherwise, the only 2 other physical buttons we have down here at the bottom are a front and a rear defrost. I've noticed that if cars have climate controls in the infotainment, 9 times out of 10, your defrosts will still be physical buttons, because if you wake up in the morning, your windshield is very frosty, or if it's becoming foggy, that is a very important function that you cannot be digging through the infotainment system for. So they usually will give you a physical button down here at the bottom of the screen, and Lexus is no different. So there you go. Those are all of your things that stay in place on the bottom of the screen. So now let's see what stays in place here over on the left-hand side. Over here on the left, on the top, we have our phone projection, which is Apple CarPlay. That's what's in right now. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. Navigation is what defaults on this infotainment. It's kind of like the home screen. You can see we're in day mode right now, and this is basically just a Google Maps display. Guess it's not loading up too fast over there, or at all. Now it thinks that we're in the middle of nowhere. A couple of different navigation settings over here on the right-hand side. We can recenter, zoom in and out, and we can also turn on or off our traffic alerts. And being that this is a Lexus, we do have what used to be called Lexus Inform. I think now it's just called Destination Assist, but you can call someone and have a representative from Lexus put a destination in your navigation screen if you don't want to do it yourself. So kind of neat. We have a little search button down here on the bottom left. Starbucks, please.
You do not have an active route set.
Okay, well, we'll just search it with the keyboard then. All right, reacts pretty quickly there. Let's see how fast it goes in. Not bad. Okay, pretty fast reacting infotainment, or excuse me, navigation system here. Not bad at all. That's pretty much it as far as navigation goes. You can also minimize your climate control if you want to do so. I like to leave it up just because I like to have access to everything, but if you want to make it go away to a certain extent, you know, you've still got your vent controls and everything, but if you want to get rid of your heated controls and vent positioning, you are able to do that with the arrows. Make your navigation screen a little bit bigger for you there. Music tab here, if you have a phone Bluetoothed, that would show up here, or your radio source. So you can see my phone is Bluetoothed. You can connect to Apple or Amazon Music, but let's take a look at radio here, see what that's like. We'll go ahead and turn that down. You can see you have more sources that come up when you click radio. You can see whoever was in this last, they have favorited some Fox News, I suppose, as well as U2, SiriusXM, Hits 1, and some other things there. Right now, Symphony Hall is on. That seems to be what all of these Lexuses get delivered playing. Oh, we're on favorites already, excuse me. You can tune over here on the right-hand side. We don't have a physical tune knob in this Lexus, but the tune station, or excuse me, the tune menu is kind of slanted over to the right so the passenger is still able to access it. Pretty easy to tune to whatever station you want us tuned to. I mean, not really anything too challenging there. Go ahead and go back to our main menus here. And click on FM radio, and you do have some categories over here on the left-hand side. You've got recently played and all stations over here as well. Number of different categories there, kind of nice. AM radio. You can see here, I like that they give you little icons so you can easily recognize what station you want to go to. And finally, Sirius XM here. You can see we have a bunch of different choices. There's a Kevin Hart channel, didn't know that. Okay, so that's pretty much the radio controls. I mean, it's not super in-depth. Or nothing super challenging, I should say. But there you go for that tab. I mean, honestly, everyone nowadays really just uses phone projection and Spotify. So that's my opinion anyways. Let's keep going over here on the left-hand side. We do have a phone tab as well. You can see that takes you to whatever you have, either Bluetoothed or lined in. Right now, it is defaulting to Apple CarPlay. That'll take you to my phone menu there in CarPlay. So let's keep on moving down the line here to our vehicle menu. What's cool is the icon over here is actually a little Lexus RX, so that's kind of neat. We've got a number of different vehicle settings in here. That's mostly what you're going to find. You'll see that the first thing we have are our drive mode selectors. I showed you earlier that there is an easier way to access your drive modes, but if you want to do that from this menu, you are able to do so. You can put this car into the custom drive mode from here, and you can also mess with your different settings here. You can see this custom drive mode right now is set powertrain sport, suspension normal, steering sport, air conditioning normal. Interesting, you can mess with your air conditioning settings, put them in eco if you'd like. But you can see we've got a number of different settings in here to mess with whatever you'd like to mess with. I'm going to go back into eco mode so we don't have to hear any artificial engine noise. You can also turn on or off all of your driver assists in this menu. You can see we've got pretty much all of them turned on except road sign assist. There are a ton of different driver assists in this Lexus RX. You certainly have no shortage of assistance here in this new SUV. Trip information here, which I have found to be the only way to reset your trip over on the cluster as well. I messed around with this a little bit earlier on our fuel economy test, and I averaged, as you can see there, 25 mpg. Oops, we just went into trip information. You can also see a live view of your energy flow. Toyotas usually always have this as an option. Ever since like the first gen Prius, you've always been able to view what's going on with the powertrain of the car, from the internal combustion engine to your battery, to your electric motor, to the wheels, all of the good stuff. Excuse the gentleman next to me that is blasting some hardcore rock. I'm trying to talk so we can't hear that through the mics. Anyways, though, all-wheel drive torque distribution will appear in this menu, tire pressure in this menu, and vehicle alerts all the way down at the bottom. You also have a search tab here. If you'd like to search for something, you're able to do that in that menu. Settings menu, final thing over here on the left-hand side, and this takes you through other settings that aren't related to the vehicle per se. So personal info, Bluetooth devices, you've got general settings in here, accessibility, date and time, things like that. Notifications, Wi-Fi, display. You can turn this into automatic or manual, so I can put this into night mode. Let's do the rest of the video in night mode so you guys can see what night looks like. There's navigation in night mode. I do always prefer that. Day mode is a little bit harsh on the eyes. Sound and media, you can adjust your levels in here. Turn on your levelizer and mess with your tuning in that. Navigation, you've got different vehicle settings in here, customization settings that aren't really related to the way the car drives, but if you want to switch different settings, you can do that in there. Driver assist, again, a ton of different ways to toggle on and off your driver assist. And then finally at the bottom, you've got different dealer information, software updates, things like that. But a pretty standard settings menu. Normally, if you owned this car, you'd have an actual profile in here. So if there were multiple people driving the car, you'd be able to set whoever's profile is driving, and it would go to all of their settings. Since this is a press car, we just have Lexus user in here. It's kind of like a guest profile, and you can sign in, sign out. There's actually a guest mode as well. A lot of these new, or in fact all of the new Lexuses and Toyotas with this system have this functionality. And I've never actually lived or owned, I've never owned one of these cars, so I couldn't really say how this system really, if it's convenient or not, but you do have it in all of the new cars with this new infotainment system. Okay, so that'll pretty much do it for all of the in-house stuff. So let's take a look here at Apple CarPlay. Very wide view here on CarPlay, 5 apps across, 2 apps down. It's a beautiful display. You can see we have our raised climate here. You can't lower that down when you're in CarPlay, but that's okay. I think that this still looks quite nice. Only 2 pages of apps here, you can see, since we do have the wide view. There's our home screen. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and pull up Waze. You can see how that looks on here. We'll switch over to Spotify. Spotify Wrapped was today. Got to find out what I've been listening to all year. There you go. Google Maps, which is pretty much what this car has built in, so nothing too different there. You could just use your in-house. So there you go. There is your view of Apple CarPlay. So let's go ahead and disable CarPlay, and we'll take a look at Android Auto. All right, welcome to Android Auto. Looks like we have some sort of a message here, pre-production hardware. This is a pre-production car, so I'm not entirely sure what is going on here. Looks like we permanently have that message on here for Android Auto, but okay then. You can see how this looks. We don't have a full screen display here in Android Auto, but we'll go ahead and go home so you can see what our home screen looks like. Ooh, got some Skrillex playing there. Looks like Charlie was bumping some YouTube music. See how that looks in here. All right. Go ahead and go back. Looks like 4 apps across. Not a super fast reaction time, but also not the worst that I've seen. And even though we don't have a full screen for our apps, we do technically, I guess, have a full screen for Android Auto because we do have our song playing over here on the right-hand side. But that's pretty much it there for Android Auto. We won't go super in-depth, especially since we have a weird message up here on the screen. So if you want to get back, you've got a Lexus button there. That'll take you back to your normal screen. You can go back to navigation. You are also able to turn off that beep if you don't want to listen to the beep. It is in the settings menu. You can toggle that on and off. But that will just about wrap it up for us today. Overall thoughts on this system, I'm a pretty big fan. We were just driving the Toyota Tundra a couple weeks ago, and it's got pretty much the same system. The climate controls and things are a little bit different, but overall the system is basically the same, and I was a pretty big fan of living with that system for a week, and it's been the same story here in the Lexus RX. It's a big improvement over what we've seen in Lexuses of years past, and I've been really happy to live with it. Even though the climate control is in the infotainment, they make it accessible enough to not make you irritated or make you crash while you're driving down the road. So that'll end it for us today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you want to learn more about this Lexus RX 500, make sure to check the link in the description to get you to all of our other videos on it. But that'll wrap it up for us today, and we'll see you in the next one. This has been Chris here with Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.